All right, let's see. Check. 1, 2, 3. That looks good. That looks great. It's me, of course. Hello, Tommy. Hello, Gunner. Hello and welcome. Glad you guys are here. It's going to be an interesting show today. You don't need to take notes because you can go back and watch it again. That's the beauty of it. Yeah. Let's see. There we go. So what did you guys think about the vMix Funtime live show last night? Did you know it was broadcast twice? They did 2 live shows last night. One at 7 o'clock Eastern in the U.S. and one at 12:45 a.m. actually this morning, February 8th. So yeah, thought that was interesting. I don't know that they've ever done that before. That's we used to do 2 shows back to back, the Streaming Idiots show and the that Vid Blaster guy show. Excuse me. And so it was, yeah, but those were back to back, and sometimes had similar content. So yeah, not exactly the best way to do it. I'm struggling with something here in my personal and professional life. My phone, my Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus, I guess, somehow got a bad spot on it where the pixels didn't work anymore. So that's the old one. That's the new one. They are essentially the same phone, but they are yeah, they're supposed to transfer and they had a little app that transferred everything from one phone to the other, but it didn't transfer passwords and things like that. So I've got to go back and recreate passwords. I don't have to recreate them. I just have to dig them out. Fortunately, don't tell anybody, but I only use 3 passwords and they're all sort of a form of each other. That's not true. I use more than that. Yeah, I use more than that. Sometimes I'll just add something to the end of it. Tommy, I had a motherboard for lunch. Yep, I did. And it was crunchy, shall we say. Yeah, crunchy. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. So apparently there's a new bird dog device out called a pod. If you know what that is. Apparently I've already had some orders for them. They're not even in our little store yet. That's interesting. We'll have to get some details on the pod. I also found out something interesting the other day when I was playing with the, we're just sort of getting warmed up for the show here. When I was playing with the PTZ Optics Move 4K cameras, I had 3 of them connected and they just crawled, and then, would try to catch up. And I looked all through my system trying to find out, where the hangup was. And they were crawling in NDI Studio Monitor, and they were crawling in vMix, which told me it wasn't one or the other pieces of software. And so I started searching around, and Task Manager is one of your friends when you're on one of these journeys. And so I asked Task Manager to show me what the GPU was doing. My NVIDIA RTX 2080 Ti. And it was at, some 100% or 93% or something like that. And it must have been 100% because essentially it was overloaded. And it was just for the video, let me see, before I misspeak, let's pop Task Manager open here and take a look. I'm only running 2 of those cameras today. And let's see, performance tab, GPU. Yeah, it was the video. Thought it was the video decode. No, I guess I'm not. I've got, yeah, let's see. Is that camera on somewhere? No. I've got 2 cameras on. I've got 2 of the Move 4Ks on, but only one of them is connected to vMix. And the other one is not connected to anything, but it's on. But so it's not I think it was the video decode that was so high. But I'll have to go back and check. Video decode, yeah. Anyway, interesting thing. I'm thinking about upgrading that card. Yeah, Tommy, I saw that on the Fun Time Live show last night when you posted that. That's great. i7 1080, excuse me, 1050 Ti. Do you know what resolution and frame rate you are using as your kind of basic desktop in vMix for that? And then also what you're streaming and also what you're recording. Because, for example, at our church, we're running an i7 2600K. So that's an old CPU. I mean, second generation CPU, with a 750 Ti, which is an even older card than yours. And we're running 1080p 60 as our desktop. We're streaming 720p 60. We're recording 1080p 60, and then we're posting the 1080p 60 to YouTube later. And the CPU cruises at 30%, something like that. GPU memory, we don't use a lot of graphics or videos. The GPU memory, I think, is in the 30s or 40s. But there's definitely an art to configuration on some of the older systems to kind of keep them working. And I love playing with the older stuff. I remember my days in live streaming soccer, and we had a DSL connection put in from AT&T at my cost into the football stadium, which is where they played the soccer matches. And I think we were getting 3 megs down and 1 meg up, one meg up. So we were streaming at 400K. I mean, it was standard definition. It was 854 by 480 or something like that. So it was widescreen. And yeah, those were the mean old days. Tommy's doing 720 at 6 MBS. 6? Wow. That's high for 720. That's great. I mean, it probably looks really good. The higher your bit rate, the better the image looks, especially if there's movement involved. We're doing 4K 60 today. 4K 60. Gee, I mean, I remember times of streaming 320 because the bandwidth was so bad. 320, can you imagine? Oh my gosh. Those were fun. Fun days, because there weren't people to go to that, or at least not that I knew of, that knew more than me, and I didn't know anything. Yeah. Okay, 3 minutes and 24 seconds. So yeah, boy, back in those days, you just had to sort of make it up, make it do what it would do. All right, let's see. Yeah, the heavier they are, the more bits it takes to stream them. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. There you go. There you go. Oh, I've got 20 here at the studio, so it's not like I'm doing anything fabulous. And I will confess, hang on a second, I'll confess something to you. I've got 20, but I'm broke the rules and I am streaming at 14 megabits per second. So I'm using more than 50%. I'm using 70%. Yeah. So there's not a lot of whoops. I got to take this call. You guys bear with me just 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. There was a call I've been waiting for from my cardiologist to tell me whether I still had a cardio or not. So, yeah. So let's catch up here. 850 up. Gunner, you got to share share the wealth. Yeah, we had a new company to put fiber in our neighborhood, Tommy. Fiber. But the problem was it was very expensive. And my studio is not in my neighborhood. So yeah. That was my cardiologist. New effects option in vMix to add alpha mask. I think they need a beard mask. Alpha, beard. Yeah. That's going back in time. No, I was just getting some clarification. Just getting some clarification. All right, let's get this show on the road, shall we? This is going to be it's going to be a good one. Sit tight. We'll press the purple button. All right, it worked again. And there's audio and video. Hooray. Yeah, there we go. Hey guys, welcome. Glad you are here today for another exciting, thrilling, mind tingling. I was going to say mind numbing, but that wouldn't quite be the same. We are coming to you in lovely 4K 60, courtesy of a PTZ Optics Move 4K NDI HX 4K 60 pan tilt zoom camera. And Eric's here. Welcome. Glad to have you. And that completes the ability to do 4K 60. We had been doing 4K last year, but 4K 30 because I only had a 4K 30 camera. That was the fastest and bestest I had at the time. But we're experimenting with this this PTZ Optics cam, the Move 4K, and it also has the auto tracking, which is not off right now. I mean, it's not on right now, but we're using it here in the studio. Although you did see a little bit of focus, a little blur there, because it lost me for a second because it's not following me. It's not I'm not asking it to follow me. I think it's creepy, but that's neither here nor there. The system that I'm running on today, that's doing the 4K 660. Let me bring up the stats on that. Find my mouse and get back up here. Here we go. And what we are doing, let's get that little guy out of the way. There we go. What we're doing right up there, sorry, is it's based on an i9 system, a 10900 KF, which is currently, let's see, what's it cruising along at? It's cruising along at 24% at 4.88 gigahertz. So it's a 10 core, which means there's 20 logical processors. So there's lots of headroom, and we're at now. Remember, Martin Sinclair disagrees with Microsoft. I mean, he's probably not the only one in the world that disagrees with Microsoft, but in terms of how you calculate CPU usage, he disagrees with how Microsoft calculates it. And so if you look in vMix on the bottom edge right down here, although I don't have it as part of my screenshot, you'll see that there is a CPU vMix number and a total number, and that means total CPU. And so my total in vMix is 16, 15, 17%. And in Windows, it's 24, 25, 23. So there you go. I am using an RTX 2080 Ti with 11 gigs of RAM, and the GPU memory is at 100%. Now, I noticed this the other day when I was playing around and had 3 PTZ Optics Move 4K cameras connected, and I had all three of them showing up in vMix, and all 3 of them in NDI Studio Monitor. And what that meant is that I was getting six signals on my network, which was I think it was overtaxing the network, but it was definitely overtaxing the GPU. How about that? So pulling one camera off and disconnecting the studio monitors did the trick. Right now, I've got 2 cameras connected, but only one camera is in use, i.e. it's the second camera is turned on, but it's not in vMix, it's not in Studio Monitor. And I'm at in vMix, my GPU memory is 100%. Why am I giving you all this really weird information? Because we're going to talk about building the perfect PC. And in order to do that, we kind of have to have a feel for what's important. So I'm looking at the GPU in Task Manager, and we need to do a screen capture. Come on, let's do a screen capture. All right, we'll do a screen capture. You've forced my hand to do a screen capture. And we'll do one of Task Manager. Does that show up? Yes, it does. Okay. And so we need to make sure that we sharpen it. And can we adjust the color on it a little bit? Maybe make it a little more prominent. That doesn't help. There we go. That'll help. All right. So that is my Task Manager. Under the Performance tab, you can see the Performance tab. You can't see, yeah, you can't see my mouse. But it's under the Performance tab on the GPU section right now, which shows the top left box is the 3D, the top right box is video decode, the bottom left box, can we make it illustrate? Yeah, right there is video encode, which is about 81%. And then the 3D over here, which is vMix, is about 68%. So I've come close to using all the capacity in this card. Now in vMix, the GPU memory is not any of these things. The GPU memory is the memory that vMix uses to store the videos and graphics in. And so I'm not sure how much of the memory on my video card is being used for that. I should know. And I think I think that's changed. So anyway, we'll come back to that in just a minute. All right, so we've got 32 gigabytes of RAM. Why 32? Just because I'm an idiot. You know, I build systems all the time. I build them with 16 as per vMix's recommendation, and they work beautifully. And I thought, well, you know, maybe I'll do some little video editing on this or something like that, and that might come in handy. So that was my justification for adding more RAM to this machine. And then I've got a half a terabyte solid state drive as my main drive, and then a terabyte drive for my long-term storage of these shows and other good stuff. All right, so the idea is that we are going to build the perfect system. The perfect system, though, what does that mean? Well, my perfect system and your perfect system might be entirely different. I am satisfied, for the moment, not to have a capture card in my PC. I don't have a separate video output card like a Blackmagic Mini monitor or something like that. That might be essential for you to go to a projector or a video wall or a large screen, large format TV. I've actually got a large format TV here I use for my Confidence monitor, but that's coming off my video card, not a video output card. So in vMix, it's being used as one of my full screen options. I'm running vMix Pro. And by the way, I just updated to the latest, greatest vMix 26.0.0.37 this morning. I had been behind the times. So let's say, well, here's a good example. I built a system for somebody back in November of 2020. I think that was when it was. And they said, we have one camera. That's all we'll ever need is one camera. And then about, I don't know, 3 months, maybe 6 months later, they contacted me and they said, we'd like to add a second camera. And I'll have to check. I should have checked the specs on that system before I started this show, but I'm sure that the system was capable of handling a second capture card. In fact, while I'm talking, I'll see if I can do double duty and look this guy up. Look this PC up in my database of PCs. It would be, it's going to be in 2020. That's going to be a little harder to find. And so they added a Blackmagic DeckLink mini recorder. I think that's probably what they already had. And so they just added a second one. And now they've come back to me and said, well, we would like, that had one HD input, now a second HD input. And they said, we'd like to scratch those and we'd like to add a 4-port HDMI 4K card. well, how the cookie crumbles. Remember, 4K is like 4 HDs in terms of the width. It's twice as wide, and the height, it's twice as high. So if you've got one HD panel here, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4, you've got 4 HDs in terms of data, roughly, for one 4K camera. And they wanted 4. So they were going from 2 HDs to 16 HDs, essentially 4 4Ks. And I need to go back and check the specs on their PC and see if it'll handle it. I think it might not. What are the specs that I'm checking? 2 specs in particular. One is the CPU, because I want to see if the CPU is rated to handle 4 4Ks. I mean, we haven't even talked about, probably should ask the question, is it 4K 30 or 4K 60? Because 4K 60 is twice as much data as 4K 30. So my gosh, in that case, if they were doing 1080p 30 and now they want to go to 4K 60, that's 32 HD channels, essentially. They've gone from 2 to 32 if they want to go to 4K 60. They probably don't, but you get my gist. So we're going to look at the CPU, which probably won't pass the test for 4K 60 and probably not even for 4K 30 for 4 channels. And we're going to look at the GPU. What GPU did we put in there? Now, a GPU, if they were on a budget and they said, Tom, give us the most economical system you can to run one camera and vMix, that might have been 2 years ago. Well, November 2020, we're in 23, so a little over 2 years ago. That might have been a GTX 1660. That's what we may have used way back then, because it didn't need a lot of horsepower, didn't need a lot of CPU, did not need a lot of GPU to run one HD camera. So I'm not very, what's the right word? Excuse me a second. Thank you, X Keys. That sneeze was brought to you by X Keys, or in this case, was not brought to you by X Keys. So anyway, so I have a concern that what they have is not going to be able to expand enough to get them what they want. Now, let's say you came to me 2 years ago and said, Tom, I want to do one camera HD. I would have said, okay, we don't need a whole lot of horsepower for that. Aziz, welcome. Maybe we just need an i7, although you could do it with an i5, by the way. You could do probably up to 4 HD camera inputs with an i5 and not even a big video card. vMix is amazing in how it does that kind of stuff. So let's say we used an i5 or a low-end i7 and a 1660 graphics card for you for one camera because you were on a budget. And, I said, what do you think about future-proofing just in case? Well, we just don't have the money to future-proof. How much more would it be? I don't know, $1,000 more. A bigger, badder video card, bigger, badder CPU, probably a different motherboard. So yeah, I think, I'll have to check on this motherboard. I think this may be an X299 motherboard. I don't remember. I should check. Hello, Chris. Glad to have you. So future-proofing, unless you've got a budget, a healthy budget, you probably didn't future-proof 2 years ago during the pandemic years. And so the thoughts of being able to make an improvement from 2 HD channels to 4 4K channels on the same PC is not very likely. Even if we upgraded the video card, even if we said, okay, well, let's get a big bad 3080 Ti and put it in there. $1,000 just for the card. Is vMix, going to be able to carry the load with whatever the CPU used back then would be? I don't know. I would not be optimistic of that. In fact, I would probably, if somebody really wanted to do it, I would probably have to test it here in the studio to see if we could take an underpowered CPU and an overpowered GPU and be able to make it handle 4 channels of 4K video at 30 frames a second, let's just say. But let's say we're starting from scratch. That's a different story. I had somebody approach me the other day. It was a public TV station. And they had, I think they have 11 different studios. So it's in a big city. And they wanted to begin to upgrade. Basically, they were using TriCasters in all those studios. And they wanted to upgrade those. And so they were going to look at TriCaster again, but they wanted to look at a vMix PC as well. And they wanted to do something that was portable. Ooh, well, portable, that adds a dollar sign to the price. But they had some special needs of what they wanted in terms of the ability to capture a certain number of cameras. They wanted to be able to capture 4 cameras, not 4K, just HD, but also be able to carry 4 channels of NDI. I didn't ask them full, it must have been full NDI because I think they were sourced from other systems. And so, and they said, and we'd like the ability to go to 4K. So I said, okay, I'm going to give you some alternatives in your pricing. Here's a price of a system that's designed to meet your need today. Here's a system that would be designed to meet your 4K need if you wanted to meet it today. And then third price was, here's the cost to upgrade this system to that system. And of course, the cost to upgrade this system to that system was more than that system would have cost had they just bought it. Haven't heard back from them yet, but these processes, the negotiations take some time. The point of the matter is that you will spend more to upgrade than if you future-proof on the front end with the big stuff. It's like if you're in the States, and I don't know, maybe in Europe they do it this way too, but occasionally, a lot actually, in the States, we'll find in our interstate system a 3-lane, all the traffic heading north, 3 lanes of traffic heading north on a bridge, and yet there's a giant, giant shoulder, big enough for a lane, maybe 2 more lanes. And that is future proofing. They're getting that bridge ready to handle more traffic in the future, and they've spent a chunk of money, your money and my money, a chunk of money making that bridge available for that. But they know that it's much cheaper to do it today than it will be in 10 or 15 years, or if they have to rebuild the bridge in 20 or 30 years. So, hello, Ken. Welcome. Glad to have you. So, the future proofing idea is one that is worth exploring, but it also depends on the nature of what you're doing. Let's say, for example, it's Tommy's church or it's my church, and you'll say, what, and we're talking, at least for us, we're sort of a micro church. There might be 50 people in the seats on a Sunday morning. That would be a big Sunday for us. But we also have a pretty good audience of folks that either come back later, that were in church Sunday morning, come back later and watch the service, probably the sermon, a second time, and folks that are remote. Either they are, folks that are members and are traveling, or we have some folks that are getting up in the years and they just can't come to church anymore. And so the live stream becomes their lifeline. And then we have other folks that have just found us on the internet, and they want to kind of join, but remotely. And so they watch and they send a contribution. Is there a need to upgrade the system for the audience? Last I saw, 50% of folks that were ingesting video were doing it on their phone. 50%. 480 video looks good on a phone. 720 looks great. 1080, I don't know that you can even tell. Buffered when I welcomed Ken. No surprise there. And 4K, of course, is ridiculous. You would never know it. You might know the difference between 30 frames a second and 60 frames a second on your phone. I need to test that one day and just sort of see. But let's say half your audience, either live or after the fact, doesn't need video any greater than 720. What do? You might poll your audience and see how many of them really would digest that video at greater. I am a big fan, and that's just because I'm a video guy. Or am I a video guy? We'll have to debate that one. I am a big fan of watching YouTube videos and live YouTube videos on the TV in my living room when I can be in my favorite chair and watch TV. And it's big, and there I definitely benefit by 4K, because 4K looks really good. You can tell the difference between 1080p and 4K. And of course you can tell the difference between 30 frames a second and 60 frames a second. You can do that probably on any resolution. But the 4K really makes a difference when you're in the larger formats. And then we'll probably be having the same conversation in 5 or 10 years about 8K. But there is a portion of this fictitious audience, people in Tommy's church or people in my church, there is a small percentage of them that will end up watching the video on a large TV, either live or recorded. And I'm wondering, especially in a church, well, probably in any situation, that you would be well served to make available the best available to your audience, and then let your audience pick what they'll take. Now, in the church world, you know, a great picture and good quality sound is probably not going to increase a giver's gift, but it might make it a little easier to watch, and so it gets watched more frequently or for longer duration, especially if the audio is good and the music is good. Otherwise, it's just a sermon point. And that's where something like YouTube comes in, where I'm sending this out at 4K 60. You know, Chris may not be watching it 4K 60. He may be watching it 1080p 60, or, you know, Tommy may be watching it 1440 60. And somebody else may be watching on their phone at 720 60. That's okay. That's the beauty of YouTube. It does it for free. And one of the ways that I've made it do it one of the ways that I've optimized that today is that I have opted for normal latency in the processing. So this video has about 20 seconds of latency in it, which for a chat is really tough to get. But for the quality of the video is really important. And the way we're using the video here is we're broadcasting live, and we're asking YouTube to record it, even though I'm recording it too here. We're asking YouTube to record it and put it in the archives at 4K 60. And then they'll re-encode it, or it'll take them a little while to re-encode it, but they'll re-encode it and make it available on all the different, you know, from 4K to 1080 to 720 to 480 to 320 to 244 to 240, to 144. All of those different resolutions would become available. If you had to pay for that, you would be paying for it, and you would know. Tommy says he's watching it 1080p 60 right now. Okay. That's helpful. So the conversation is about future proofing, and I think I'm going to make the conclusion that 4K is, in my world now, as of today, February 8th, 2023, my dad's birthday, by the way. He would be 92 today. 90. Yeah, this is 2023. He was born in 31, so he'd be 92. I don't consider 4K future proofing. I've got a 4K camera here. I've got one there. 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 I think that's all the 4K cameras I've got in the studio. 2 years ago, I might have had one. And it wasn't 4K 60 for sure. But 4K is just like, it's all over. And we've got the bandwidth to support it. We've got the PCs that'll support it. You've got software like vMix that'll support it. You've got NDI that makes it available if you don't want to get any kind of super high-end capture card to capture 4K, be interested to do a test and see what 4K cameras would do over NDI versus over a 4K capture card. See what the CPU use would be. Because remember, NDI is using mostly CPU for its processing like that. Yeah. 4K is not future-proofing. I'm going to start that from now on out. 4K is not future-proofing. Now, it may not be your budget, but it's not future-proofing. It's a budgetary restriction, not a future restriction. Yeah. And so make as many decisions as you can to support 4K. That's what I'm going to say from here on out. So this perfect PC that we're building for Tommy's church or my church, we're going to support 2 cameras over NDI, 4K, 30. Compromise for the budget. And so we're going to put in an i7 13700 KF, which will be a 12-core processor, 8 full-size cores and 4 little low-energy cores, which is pretty affordable, actually. The video card is where the question comes, because putting in a 3080 Ti increases the price of the PC at $1,000. I might have to do some testing on what that 13700 KF CPU would do with a mid-range capture card. Yeah. Interesting. Isn't it interesting? There's so many different factors that go into it. Most of it has to do with the CPU and the GPU and the video resolution frame rate. And I'm assuming vMix for all of this. I wouldn't use anything else. But you use what you know. You use what you know works. So that's why it would be vMix. And it was not it was a good decision. Sorry about the little jitters there. I hit the tripod with my foot. It was a good decision for us to go as a vMix only house back in 2014. So coming up next year will be our 10-year anniversary with vMix. How about that? Didn't know that. Cool. All right, well, let's flip over to the post show, and we'll talk some more about this, get some input from you. And yeah, we'll press the purple button, the other purple button on our X Keys XK80. Be right back. Okay, there we go. All right, Ken, welcome. Camera with XLR mic inputs, feeds well into vMix 26. Got it. That would be this camera, the 4K Camera Pro, 4K Canon Pro. So how are you ingesting that video, Ken? HDMI, SDI, NDI? Ken's on a 32-inch monitor right now. He switched to 4K. He didn't see a difference. He switched to 720. He didn't see a difference. You need new eyes. And yeah. And it also depends some on your internet connection. YouTube will select the best bit rate and resolution for that it thinks you can handle. And so if you didn't initially get 4K, it may be because YouTube sensed that your 4K wouldn't look as good. And so it sent you 1080. And the difference between 1080 and 720 is pretty subtle. The difference between 30 frames a second and 60 frames a second, I think is less subtle. I think it's definitely noticeable, even in talking heads, even in church. Yep. He's using the Elgato. All right. There you go. Yeah, that's unfortunate. But, you know, we want this good high technology. We want the benefits of it. We're going to have to pay the going rate. Let's see. There you go. There you go. What can I say? What can I say? It's only February, Martin. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. That's okay. That's okay. Uh-oh. All right, let's check the text message. I don't check text messages regularly. And I don't see one from you. How about an email, maybe? Let's see. Nope. The number you have, it may not be my cell phone. It may be my business phone, which gets forwarded to my cell phone. I'm going to put my cell phone in the chat here. I'm not going to speak it. You guys can keep this if you need it. Did I do it right? Yeah, there we go. So try again in just a minute. YouTube is volunteering you to 4K 60 in Australia. That's interesting. That's interesting. Well, Eric's got us on the big screen in the auditorium there at his college. And I'm hoping he's going to send me a picture that we can show you of what it looks like. Although, yeah, if you're watching this in 720 and you see a picture and it looks good in 720, it doesn't mean it was 4K, even though it's clear in 4K. Although you might be able to tell a degraded 720 image is not as good as a degraded 4K image. I don't know. We'll see. Of course. No problem. The whole video thing is really snake oil, I think. Even though that's the business I'm in. Because if the video's good, did you get my message? If the video is good, but the audio is bad, how long will you watch? I'm out of there, babe. I'm out of there. One of my clients came to me because they were frustrated with the audio. And they said that the PC they were using was screwing up the audio, and I wasn't sure that I believed them. And so I remoted into their system with their permission and went through everything I could find. And the audio was bad in their PC. So we are shipping them another one this afternoon. The one that they have now is not one that we built. The one that we're sending them, of course, is one that we built. Ken says the best internet you can get is 100 down, 40 up. Okay. Okay. That's the best for anybody, no matter how big your checkbook. I mean, here in the studio, I get 100 down, 20 up. And I pay $125, $122 a month for it. That's the only service I get from AT&T. I'm not in a very populated area. I mean, there's population blocks from here, but I'm not in a real populated area. And so there are just no real other hardwire options here, at least at this point. Now, when they begin to put some developments up around here, they'll probably put fiber in, and then I'll get an option for fiber. I did, when I had my studio in my home several years ago, I had cable TV internet that was gigabit, or at least it was sold as gigabit. They were still learning how to put all this equipment in, so they had constant failures, I think, and we stuck with them for a couple of years. I think when we finally gave up was after we had 32 service calls at the house for the internet, just not working. It wasn't that it wasn't fast enough, it just wasn't working. And finally just gave up. And I came here to the studio and got a glorified DSL line. And we have essentially the same thing at home. Although it's not as fast as here at the studio, it doesn't need to be as fast because I'm not uploading. But what? 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 What are you guys talking about? Hey, Udall. Glad to have you. Love to see you. All right, let's see what Clark says. Do you have any network switch recommendations that can connect via Thunderbolt? I assume that it's needed to support bandwidth of 4+ NDI cameras at 4K 60 on a switch. I don't know that I would engineer it like that. I think I would engineer, I mean, if you said, okay, I need a PC that's capable of handling, I mean, let's boil down the basics of what you need. I need 4 NDI cameras, 4K 60. We're not going to start with a PC that only has a gigabit network connection. I've got one over here I'm building that's got a 2.5 gig port in it. And then we've done others where we've put in a 10 gig network card. I wouldn't do anything through Thunderbolt like that. I mean, it's just, it's an additional translation that you're making. So 4K 60s on NDI. Say 4K 60 is going to be maybe 250 megs. And you want 4 of them, so that's a gig. I would probably just jump to a 10 gig network. I mean, obviously, you're not going to be streaming 10 gigs because you're not going to be streaming all 4 cameras. And even when you do, you're going to encode it. Yeah, I think I got you. I would put I mean, if you've got a production PC, sorry, I have an itch here. If you have a production PC already that you want to make this connection on that's got a Thunderbolt option, does it have a PCIe card slot open that you can put a 10 gig network connection in and then get a network switch of 10 gigs? And no, I don't know any 10 gig network switches. I'm not really a network guy. I do what I do out of necessity, but not out of love or high interest. Let's put it that way. Oh my gosh. All right. Couple of, well, Ken, is your fiber, the fiber, your internet is not provided by the government, is it? Because the bridge here is a government bridge. It's a good bridge, but it's a government bridge, which means it took twice as long to build and twice the cost. Oh, yes. 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 The real business is the audio business, but it's the video that sells it because the video is prettier and everybody wants the pretty video as long as the audio is okay. Ask Tim on the vMix Fun Time live show from last night here in the US at 7 o'clock Eastern about audio. It sounded like he had taken a wool scarf and wrapped it around his head a couple of times and then was trying to talk through it. It was much better on the second show early this morning at 12:45 a.m. Yes. I forget what. Okay. In New Zealand, at home, Chris gets 100 up and down, but lots of others are 140. Yep. And the local university gets 350 up down. Yeah. And, the question is, what governs that? Here in the US, it's governed by the fact that there is an infrastructure in place that the people that own the infrastructure want to keep using the infrastructure and don't want to have to upgrade the infrastructure to support gigabit speeds for everybody. And one by one, the little guys are creeping in with the offering, and it's going to force the bigger guys to do something. So, yeah. And therein lies the problem. It's non-compete. It's government funded, so it's whatever the heck the government wants to do. Or if somebody gets elected, maybe they can do something about it, but probably not. There's probably more resistance because it would require spending a lot of money to upgrade where everybody could get a gig network in their home and their business and their church and their school. Yeah. vMix Call improved my business as a journal copywriter. I use it to interview case studies. I now charge $9.79 per video interview. If it was a print interview, at most I could charge was $4.80. vMix pays. Go for it, dude. Definitely. Glad to see you doing that. vMix Call is like so many things that vMix did. and probably will do in the future. They were ahead of the rest of the world. Martin Sinclair saw things that didn't yet exist as if they were. And so he created products that would meet these needs in advance. I mean, you always read about these inventors who invented these things, and then they couldn't sustain their companies to the point where their inventions would be accepted. and then people say it was before their time. Yeah. They just didn't have enough money to hang around until their time showed up. But vMix Call is a good example of that. vMix Social is a good example of that. Just in the last couple of years, I think the use of vMix Social has probably caught on, where 8 years ago or whenever it was first introduced, it was like, what is this? Why should we use this? Laugh if you shall. Me laugh at you for using bonded cellular? I applaud you for doing that. And you're an idiot. Clark's got a gig up and down, typical in Canada. Who is it provided by? Is it provided by the government or private organization or a semi-private government-private partnership? Like, for example, here in the US, the utility companies, you would say they're private, but they're heavily regulated by the government, including the prices that they can charge. There is a public service commission in every state that governs. And so if you're in a utility company and you want to raise the price of electricity or gas or oil, you have to go to the government to ask permission to do that. I don't know you. I don't even like you. But I want your internet. Martin is an Aussie. He is. A lot of good things come out of Australia. vMix, Bird Dog, Black Magic. Those are the top 3 I can think of. And we've got all 3 of them here in this studio in abundance. I mean, we've got vMix licenses piled in the corner as high as you can. Let's see if Eric ever gave me a. No. Never got a text message. He may have 100 gigs at the college and a gig at home, but his cell phone is on 3G. You like that when I did that and the phone just sort of disappeared for a second? That's cool. All right. I'm rambling. And you guys are being really nice. Okay. TZ, will vMix run okay with an i5 1360K plus a Z690 motherboard and a 3060 graphics card and a Decklink quad HDMI 4K? No. No, it won't. But if you're looking, if let's you actually started at the end, and let's go back to the other end, which is your Decklink quad HDMI 4K. What does it take to run that card? That's the thing. And if you'll go to vmix.com, in fact, let's do that together. And let me capture this screen. 1 second. 1 second. Actually longer than 1 second. That's okay. Let's see if we can get the whole display. There we go. All right, and let's do a sharpen. Okay. So this is the vMix website. And let's go to products, reference systems. And we're just going to take that. And then there is the Ruby, which is HD and 4-camera replay. All right. Then there's the Opal, which is just HD. Sapphire is a laptop. And then the Obsidian. Okay. So we've got 6 at 4K. And we are using a CPU that is an Intel Core i9 10900X or 9900X. So not an i5, not an i7, it's an i9. And it includes the, well, let's see, what does it include? The DeckLink quad HDMI recorder, which I believe that's the 4K, because they don't have a quad HDMI that's not 4K. And then we're talking about a capture card that's a 3080. I mean, a video card that's a 3080, and the X299 motherboard. So yeah, I would say vMix would agree with TZ. vMix would not agree with any of those choices, except they say you can do that capture card, but not with the rest of the hardware that you're looking at. Yep. DeckLink Quad HDMI 4K versus Elgato CamLink Pro. I think Elgatos are toys, so I'd go with the DeckLink. HD Video Pro Eric has 5G modems. And so 2 FirstNet and then a Verizon. Well, there you go. You're probably getting great speeds. Yep, there he is. 40 to 60 upload. At what cost? At what cost? Well, probably, what, $200 or $300 a month? If you're giving away a vMix license, a 4K vMix license from your pile of licenses in the corner, I'll have one. Oh no, you're in Australia. You have to get yours from Martin. I sent the link to the pic in the chat. Oh, well, let's see. It probably, if it was a link, it probably turned it down. So let's see if we've got a missed. Yeah, Eric, send it again. If you put a link in the chat, it would flag it. But it would also allow me the option to approve it. But I don't see where it's flagged anything. Yeah, I don't see. Do it again. I'll keep an eye on it. Do it again. And I will keep an eye on it. If y'all don't remember Eric, we did a video together, he and I, a while back. Spoke a lot of time on vMix replay. You can go look that up. That was a good one. vMix is just so multi-talented on so many multiple levels. All right, the other Eric says $250 a month, but it gets used on his live use solo during high school sports. There you go. And you're not tethered. Yeah, that's great. That means you can go anywhere you want. And that used to be kind of future proof, and now it's normal. Yep. And if you can get 40 to 60 upload, you can do 4K 60 and do better than most of the sports networks, because they're not doing 4K. ABC Sports doing 4K, maybe for something special. I mean, the Super Bowl this Sunday will probably be 4K, and you'll have to pay extra for it. At least I did for the playoff last week, but only on one channel. The other channel, it was just 1080p, 60, probably 60. Yep. Isn't it funny how streaming is, teaching terrestrial TV things? Still waiting on Eric's link here. So if I appear to be diddling about, that's because I'm diddling about. I wish people would spend as much time on audio as they would on video. And I think that, but the reason they don't is because you can make what you and I might consider a significant improvement in the audio, and the average guy on the street doesn't notice the difference. Yeah. Hang on, I'm just checking to see if Eric decided to send me a picture to my texts. No, it's just my Ring doorbell telling me that Amazon showed up. But you can tell bad audio. But when somebody's setting up a look, sometime we'll do a show on it, although I don't know much about it, but on audio compression and all of the intricacies of audio and compression, and the on ramp and the off ramp, or whatever they call those kinds of things, and the time that people take into taking a recording of a song, for example, and going in and manually adjusting the vocals all the way through, and adding compression, or a gate, or something like that, a limiter of some kind to help it sound better. But unless video you can do side by side, but you can't do audio side by side. You can't say, okay, here's a camera. Well, I guess you can do bad audio side by side with good audio. Like, example, vMix Funtime live show last night. Heath's audio was good. Tim's audio was not. And had Tim been the only one on there, it would have been bad. But if Heath was on there and Tim's audio was perfectly adjusted, I don't think we would have been able to tell the difference, because Heath's audio was fine. It was fine. It was suitable. It was serviceable. It wasn't bad so that we noticed, and not many of us would notice pristine, I don't think. There you go. For an interview, he used Waves Clarity VX to cut out background noise from his mic and his guest. That's great. That's a VST3 plugin from Waves Audio. Waves, I think it's Waves It might be just waves.com, but it's most certainly wavesaudio.com. And they put their plugins on sale all the time. They'll have them priced at, $90, $120, and then they'll sell it for $25 on sale. I'm not familiar with the Clarity VX. Here we use, let me turn my audio mixer on for a second. And I'm going to find my mic. And the plugins that I use, I got from Waves Audio, is the NS1 stereo, which is a noise suppressor. And it's very simple to use, and it just takes out the background noise. I mean, right there, I can almost touch it, is the server that's running vMix right now. And the fan is running pretty high. Maybe you can hear it. Well, I'll turn it off and on and see if you can hear. Here we go. So I've got it on, and I'm going to turn it off. Whoops, sorry. Off. You hear the fan? I'll turn it off. Let's see, we'll turn the noise suppressor all the way down, so you should be able to hear it. I keep it at about 50%. That's right about there. And then 100% might affect my audio and might cause me to clip or something like that. So I don't leave it at 100. We'll bring it back to 60, 55. So yeah, that's good stuff. If you're into audio, definitely the fact that vMix will accept a VST3, not a 2 or a 1, VST3 plugin is a big deal. Yep. Cool. I'll have to take a look. Thank you, Ken. All right. Well, looks like Eric Tabor got busy, and I get that. That happens to the best of us. And I appreciate his opportunity. We'll pick up that picture maybe next week. But I have got to go finish some PCs and get them to UPS. So they will get to, one is going to South Carolina, one is going to Illinois, and then I've got a camera going to the Caribbean and another camera going to Canada. So yeah, we try to stay on this side of the world, though. Well, guys, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you today. And I will see you next week, for sure, on another exciting edition of Streaming Idiots. All right. Later.